In this video, we're going to take a look at this Mauriat System 76 tenor saxophone. I'm going to give it a thorough review from a mechanic's perspective. I'm going to give it a rating from 0 to 100, and at the end of the video, we'll give it a play test. Let's get started. Today in my shop, I was lucky to get one of these Mauriat System 76 tenor saxophones in. I'm really impressed with these horns. Let's go through some of the features and some of the things that make this a great horn, and some of the things that I have problems with that, from a mechanic's perspective, actually will give you problems later on down the road owning this instrument. Let's talk about some of the things that make this horn a great horn. First of all, just playing the instrument, it's got a very big, full sound. Mauriat does say that it is a large bore on their website, which I believe it does have that big, full sound like you would expect from a large bore. The sound tends to be on the focus side. This particular model has a clear lacquer on it. On the website you can get a vintage-like finish, and you can also get it unlacquered without a high F sharp key, which kind of does play into this horn having that big, large bore vintage sound that I'm actually, the sound that I'm into personally, and so that sounds pretty hip to me to have that horn without a high F sharp key. The pearls on this saxophone are abalone, which is a type of shell, and they're really beautiful. However, on this horn, it's either the player or just how these pearls are. They're really rough. They definitely get eaten away with the player's finger acids or the acids in their skin. So that could be a concern. Those are replaceable, so that's something that maybe I'll recommend replacing with something that feels better under the fingers, because it doesn't have a great feel right now. The factory setup is good. There wasn't really any leaks to speak of. This horn is probably a year or two old, so there is leaks that are common from a horn being played for a couple years. But this particular horn, the setup overall I thought was really good. The key venting overall was decent. There was definitely some issues. The low C was too low, the side keys were too low, but overall the key venting, they got it right from the factory. The engraving is really beautiful, and on their Mauriat's website it says it's hand engraved, and it's really beautiful. They did a nice job. This horn is engraved and then lacquered, so the engraving will stay nice and bright for years to come. The lacquer and polishing is really pretty. I don't see any issues with any of the finish. Everything looks really nice. This horn, like I said, is a couple years old, but it's held up nicely so far. The build quality is very good. Key work's very tight. I don't see anything that I would call excessive. The side keys have a little play, which could be from just being played for a couple years. Probably not. It probably came like that. It's not enough that I would probably worry about key play until we start getting leaks, and then I'll have to replace pads and then remove key play. But overall, key work's really tight. The horn's pretty quiet, and it feels really solid. One thing I'm not impressed with, and this is with most saxophones when they come out of the factory, is there is no glue in the pad cups. Well, there's enough glue to keep them from falling out, but besides that, there's enough glue to keep the pads from falling out, and then they'll clamp them, bend pad cups until the leaks are gone, and then you've got a giant pad seat and then pads that are almost impossible to adjust. That is not impressive. I did have to replace a couple pads because of that on this particular horn. The spring tension overall is pretty good. There's definitely some keys I had to adjust. The low E flat was very tight. Some of the side keys were really uneven, and the stacks were okay. So spring tension was okay. Something I had to spend a little time with to get right and make that feel good, but spring tension was not great. Something that I would take care of on a setup like I did on this one, but it's something that keep in mind when you're looking at these horns, that's going to make playing the instrument a little difficult. The build quality overall is really good. The keys are tight and it does play nicely. It feels really smooth under the fingers. Overall, I think it's a well-built instrument. Overall, materials they used were very good. They use a lot of natural cork. The one thing that I don't like is on the adjustment materials, like under the B key and the A key. They use a natural cork there, which over time those will compress and then you'll have leaks. They use those throughout the instrument, so that's something that I'll replace during the setup, and that way it's a more reliable instrument. But besides that, they used proper materials. Felts seem like good quality. Pad material seems like good quality, and so overall material's pretty good. Let me know what you think so far, and if you've played one of these horns or if you own one, how you think it compares to other saxophones. Also, if you don't mind, please subscribe. The rating score is 0 to 100. There's 10 categories. Each category gets 10 points. Let's move on. Future reliability, ease of future adjustments. I gave this horn a 2 out of 10. With how these pads are installed, you'll be replacing pads sooner than later because your technician's not going to be able to adjust them like if they were properly installed with a bed of glue or shellac, whatever they prefer. So ease of adjustment is 2 out of 10. Key venting, overall, gets an 8 out of 10. There's a few minor key venting issues that I took care of, but overall the horn is really good. Sound quality, 9 out of 10. This saxophone has a very big, dark, focused sound, and the quality of it is very good. Most saxophones that have a good sound, no matter what kind of sound it is, will get a 9 out of 10. It will be interesting to see what saxophones do not rate well, where I think or feel the sound quality is bad. I think that'll probably be some certain student model instruments and maybe some certain vintage instruments that I maybe feel the sound is weak and lacking something. But overall, as long as it's got a good sound, no matter what kind of sound it is, it will get a 9 out of 10. Next, the build quality. Overall, the build quality in this instrument is very good. There are some minor key play issues, but I think overall it's a really well built instrument. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. The factory setup gets a 6 out of 10. It does play really well. It's overall there's not very many leaks, but it is really hard to adjust, and it would need an extensive setup for it to be up to my standards. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. That's because it didn't need a lot of work done to it, although it was hard to adjust what I had to adjust. Pad glue, 1 out of 10, for the reasons I already said, but there was basically just enough pad glue to hold the pad it's in. That's unacceptable, and that's how most new saxophones come in, so that's not unexpected, but it's unfortunate. Evenness of the spring tension gets a 5 out of 10. It was okay, but not great. I did spend some time getting the spring tension right, and so that gets a 5 out of 10. Overall material quality, pads, corks, felts, gets an 8 out of 10. I think the pads are good quality. The corks, natural cork is good quality, and the felts seemed fine, so it gets an 8 out of 10. Long-term value. Will this instrument hold its value? Vintage instruments typically hold their value, and they will go up in value over time. Modern new instruments don't do that. So this one gets a 5 out of 10. These they have good resale, but you're going to lose money on them after you buy one. Cosmetic looks and finish quality, 6 out of 10. The finish on the saxophone is beautiful. They did a great job polishing and lacquering. The engraving's great. The horn looks great. However, the reason it got a 6 out of 10 was I'm seeing in certain spots that there's flux bleed. And flux is the acid they use to clean the surface when they're soldering to help the solder flow and adhere to the brass. When the flux does not get cleaned off well, over time that flux will start to stain and discolor the lacquer. And I'm seeing spots under the neck brace and around the neck strap ring and on the bow and body rings here, and possibly some other areas, but that was just what I noticed the first time through, so that's why it got a 6 out of 10. It's pretty obvious that it didn't get cleaned very well before they lacquered it. This saxophone got a 58 out of 100, and that's actually, I think, a pretty good score. As we do more of these, we will learn if that's true or not, but I think overall it did pretty well. Yeah, so this one really takes a lot of air. I mean, you can put a lot of air through it, and it takes it well, and it blows really freely. Just little resistance, and yeah, I think it's a really fun horn. Definitely one to check out if you're looking for new modern tenor saxophones. My name's Scott Reed. I'm a professional woodwind technician. I play professionally. I buy, sell, trade, and collect musical instruments, and now I have a YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.